First step.
John, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you.
All right, Dan.
We're all set whenever you want.
Good job. Good morning. It's August 31st. I'd like to call the Audit and Finance Committee meeting to order. We've all had the chance to review the transcript of the October 15th committee meeting. If there are no objections, we will submit it for the record. At this time, we'd like to open the public comment portion of the meeting. If you have any comments, please limit those to 5 minutes. State your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we will close the public comment meeting. New business. Review and recommendation of the approval to the full board for the IDA operational budget for fiscal year 2023. Stacy.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. So this is sort of the step one of the process of approving our 2023 operational budget for the Broome County IDA. Just a bit of process for Peter, for your information. So we are required per New York State law to have an approved budget by October 31 of every year. And then what per New York State law, we upload that to the Paris, which is our online reporting system through the authority's budget office. So Audit and Finance, your action today is really just to review and make recommendations to further the budget to the full board. And that will take place at our September, or is it 21st, September 21st meeting as planned. So I will walk you through. I did send a narrative just on the budget, but I will walk you through, and please at any point in time stop and ask questions. Peter, you know, some of this will be new, so please feel free to jump in anytime. So just generally the proposed budget, we maintain a conservative approach based on what we think are realistic expectations for income. You know, I will say, I think that this is the first year we're starting to see the impact of some economic uncertainty with interest rates, things happening. Things are slowing, but we still have a nice pipeline of projects. So we tried to factor that into some of our assumptions in the budget for the year ahead. I do want to note just a small formatting change for those who have seen the budget over the last couple of years. When you look at this, just the structure of our budget, we have income as our top line of income. That is income received outside of our pilot project. So any and all income that we receive through lease agreements, sale of properties, etc. What we did previously was we had some of our lease back fees that were termed out up there. We just moved them down to reflect, I think, more accurately where they belong. So they are now under lease back fees. So that's just a minor formatting change that I wanted to note. But as far as income outside of our pilot payments, I just want to note a few things. We will continue. I won't go through every line. We'll be here maybe all day if I did, but we do expect an increase in our rents from the 5 South College Drive tenant leases. This is because Visions had received a 5-year. They were not paying rent for a term of 5 years, and that was due to some issues related to agreements related to the fit out of their space. They took on some additional expense, and therefore we offset that previously with a 5-year term with no rent being paid. That now kicks in January of 2023 at the rate of $1,000 per month. So that income is reflected in that number. In addition, per our previous leases with the Greater Binghamton Chamber of Commerce and Alliance for Manufacturing and Technology, there was built in a 3% increase in their rents beginning effective from September 1 for the chamber.
And then the rest of them.
And
AMT was already.
And AMT.
It already has
Yeah.
happened.
So those were built into the structure of their previous lease agreements. So that dollar amount is reflected in that number. We have budgeted at this point for the recently approved lease agreement with Tarpon Towers, which is the cell tower. We've built in the $18,000. That's $1,500 a month lease term. That could increase if assuming they bring on additional carriers, but that would be new income there. And then the miscellaneous, we always factor in some for, sometimes we receive grant proceeds if we serve as pass-throughs on grants, miscellaneous dollars. And then the Solar City lease with the county for the acreage in the Broome Corporate Park will remain the same. So outside of BCIDA lease pilot fees, we expect to receive a slightly increased amount of about $191,000 in income next year. Moving on to our IDA fees. Again, this is the fees we collect, the 1% fee we collect on transactions where pilot programs are approved and we enter into pilot agreements. 42 development, that is the, well, actually, let me jump back to the first line. As you can see, I did note a reduction in IDA sale leaseback fees on projects to be determined. We reduced that from 615,000 to 596. And I did send out to the committee a rough table. What we do every year is essentially is we try to look at what projects are in the pipeline through some form of, communication with us that they intend to apply for pilot benefits, or maybe they have an application that's in progress with us, or, we become aware of some other income, some other income source. So what I've done in this sheet that I sent to you, and I have some hard copies here, is outlined projects that we have been involved with that we believe are in some state of preparation, but we just don't know exactly when these will hit. What we try to do is identify what ones we think will reasonably close in the year ahead. So we have identified, I have not budgeted all of the projects that you see in the pipeline, but I have identified the Conifer Realty La Chase construction project, which is the former IBM Country Club. I have projected that to close in 2023 at the rate of about $396,000 in fee, and as well a project we have approved, which is the Altura at Skyview Heights. That is a closing fee of $200,000. So as you can see, those were the two that we felt as a staff we're most confident to advance into our budget. The additional ones you see here, the Water Street development project in downtown Binghamton is still in process, but we've decided to keep that out of any projections. Stizzy, which is the recent announcement of an option agreement in the city of Binghamton, Charles Street Business and Charles Street Business Park. That could be potentially two sources of income. If they purchase the 8 acres that's proposed, that money comes back to the IDA per our agreement with the city. We essentially hold the paper on that, and as the parcels sell, we get paid. The city council did approve a year-long option agreement with Stizzy on this potential sale of that land. And as well, if they move forward with a manufacturing and processing facility for cannabis in the Charles Street Business Park, they would seek a pilot from us, and therefore there would be the 1% fee to be determined. So as you can see, we try to, just estimate what we think are reasonable projections, but we don't necessarily include all of them in our budget.
Stacey, are these fees paid in full, or are these overtime?
It ultimately depends. Sometimes there's a request for a term out period. Sometimes based on the amount, we actually recommend to the board, given the amount, as you'll see, and we'll jump to those below, that sometimes it's I think prudent for us to term those out because it brings us that recurring revenue.
Right.
So actually, as you see, 42 development will not be in the 2023. We should take that out, Teresa, I think.
Yeah, I just had to
Yeah.
put it in there to compare. the
Gotcha.
two.
Yeah, we had projected a potential pilot agreement with the FedEx building in Kirkwood. They have opted not to seek a pilot. We had some preliminary conversations with them. But they opted to not pursue a pilot. So that will be out of the final version. Canopy, Spark JC, and Bluestone Peter are examples of where the fee was high enough that it was, I think, beneficial to us as an organization to term those out and it worked for the project owner as well. So we receive these annual fees on those projects. Spark JC, we have received for 2022. We will bill the beginning of 2023 on that. Canopy and Bluestone invoices just went out. We bill typically this time of year for those fees. So those are due to us for this year, but we will expect those in the year ahead as well. The small business, these next couple of items are just a few items that we receive income from, but we've never actually just outlined in our budget. So the small business incentive program, that is our sales tax only benefit program. We do have a fee attached to that program that can vary depending on the size of the sales tax exemption. But we did want to reflect that we do receive income from that. And as well, our pilot administration fee. Every project that receives a pilot benefit, we bill at the end of the year a $1,500 compliance fee. That is for our work to provide all of the details to New York State for Paris reporting, et cetera. So again, it's income we've received historically, but never really pulled out separately. So we did reflect that differently this year.
Stacy, is the 1,500 contractually bound or is it an administrative fee at our, we can change that amount?
We can change that amount. Yeah. Then loan fund administration typically holds steady, and that usually we receive at the end of the year.
Yeah, we've calculated at the end of the year,
Yeah.
and we accrue it and usually get paid the beginning of the year.
Bank interest, we have just decreased slightly based on projections for this year from previous years. But with all of that, we expect a slightly reduced amount of income next year. Again, I think to reflect what we're seeing this year is playing out as a little bit of uncertainty playing out, and also interest on some of our investments not.
One more
Being
quick
as high.
question on that. Is the balance pretty static from 22 to 23? So I think in 23, there will be some interest paid on accounts where 22, there wasn't much.
You're on the bank interest?
Yeah. What is the balance approximately?
The balance currently, we just looked at that. It is,
I don't know. I can
no, on the
check
bank interest, just on our bank interest.
it. I can check, I can give it to you in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
But it's-
7 million, isn't it?
7 million.
Something to that effect, set between 7 and 8 million.
What's in the investment?
Oh, in the investment, I'm sorry, in the investment, yes.
But this year, currently this year, the interest that we've received is considerably lower than in past years. So that's why we lowered
You
that.
think lower than the budgeted amount?
Yes,
Starts going off. the
Yeah.
budget.
yes.
Yeah. So we opted to, we thought it was,
year should be more, right, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, I think for budgeting purposes, I mean, I think you could have done 1% at this point versus 0.1% for last year. That's why.
Yeah, but I still think that will bring us, because we're quite far below
substantially
our
lower than,
current budget amount.
yeah. So all in
Get you that
total,
number after the meeting if you want.
with these projections, we're projecting about 1.27 million in income. Again, you do see it's a reduction, but we wanted to be conservative given sort of the pattern, at least, that we've seen play out this year. Looking at expenses, not a lot of significant changes in our expense line. A few things I do want to point out. As far as administrative with regard to salaries and benefit, with regard to salaries, what we do every year is I do request from the board a not to exceed amount to be used for staff salary increases. That is with the exception of the executive director or any adjustment that the board may want to provide to the executive director. So taking that out of the equation, I am requesting a not to exceed amount of $15,000 to be provided for staff salary increases. And with regard to the executive director, a salary adjustment for the executive director has been reflected in the salary line per the recommendation of the personnel committee. Dan, I don't know if you want to expound. I know you had a conversation with Jim Peduto on that. And I spoke with Jim today. There will be one final personnel committee meeting in just prior to the board meeting to sort of finalize any details related to the ED salary adjustments.
I think we'll wait till they get a report right
Sure.
after their
Yeah.
final. finished.
Yes, yeah, so, yep.
Stacy, there's a decline over the budget number for last year. Did we have an extra position in for 22?
We had, well, Tom Gray retired, and we carried some of his salary through Q1 of this year. So so he provided sort of a part-time.
And
Yeah,
there's
he
also
stayed
one
with
less, there's like a half a position that is still not filled.
We have an unfilled position currently.
Have we budgeted, assuming we filled it?
Yes, we have budget. We have included that in.
Only
Should
for
we?
half.
Yes. Yeah, we do have a young man, Nick Gregoris, who came on as an intern who he is continuing with us at an hourly rate as an intern while he just a recent college graduate. So while he's doing that, he's providing a lot of help with our CDBG grant administration. So we do have some incoming implications on that this year, and we've accommodated for that for next year's budget as well.
So some of that's timing.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
a shared position. It's full-time, but just shared with the chamber. Is that why it's a
No.
half?
No, it's just,
Why'd you say it's a half?
it's not really
Well,
a half
basically because-
position. It's just an hourly rate.
okay.
Yeah, based on, it's an hourly rate
Yeah.
difference, because I was basing that on the fact that based on the salary that wasn't what the salary would be versus,
Right. He's doing, he's working hourly for us for the time being. But we did keep funding for that position in the 2023 budget.
and he also doesn't have any of he doesn't take
benefits,
benefits
right.
either, so that also affects. the
Essentially a
benefits.
paid internship position, yeah. Let's see. The benefit line, and that's on our benefits, we did assume an 8% increase. I don't think you have the final numbers on any increases.
No, we won't
for our
get
health.
our health insurance numbers until probably January is when we usually know how much the state's gonna go up. So I took an average because I've seen numbers all over the place from 10% to 5% all over. So I used 8 as kind of a place to throw the dart to use to see what our increase will be.
Mhm. With regard to additional expenses under administration, we do like to maintain a line for professional service contracts. Currently, we have a contract with National Development Council who provides some independent financial analysis and review. They assist with structure, if we have to work with them to structure some more complicated projects and look at an array of, public financing tools, they can work with us on that. But most importantly, one of the benefits we get through that relationship is a professional development for staff at no charge. So it's part of the contract with them. I did my certification through that. Natalie's done programming, and Brendan as well, classes through that. So it's I think a very fruitful relationship to continue with National Development Council. It does leave some room. That is a $22,000 a year contract. But, again, we like to just leave room should something come up that we might need to bring a consultant on for some specific initiative. Payroll administration, we are waiting on a final note if that will increase. We have accommodated for a slight increase in payroll administration fees. And investment management as well, given that is based on the performance of our investments, as you know, or as a refresher, we only are able to invest in US Treasuries. Right now, the yield on that is substantially lower than in previous years. As such, we've seen a decrease in our investment management fee, but we'll plan to confirm those. Sometimes we don't get those until, unfortunately, after
They're usually at least a quarter behind.
Yeah, on the budget. Office expenses essentially have remained flat. I think the only area where we slightly bumped up, which is the meetings line, which is just to accommodate more
Community practice.
the community breakfast, which we've returned to. We had put a kind of a pause on that during COVID for 2 years. So essentially on our and I'm sorry, audit, we do expect our audit fees. We have received word from Insero that there will be an increase on audit fees, and that is reflected in the budget as well. Going to business development, we really have not made any significant changes. We do utilize the advertising dollars. We do a number of digital advertising pieces for the agency through sources like LinkedIn, Facebook, and other digital platforms, as well as an advertorial. We do a package we do with the New York State Real Estate Journal, which is very effective in getting visibility in the metro New York City, Connecticut, New Jersey area as well. So really not a lot of changes at all with that line, that business development areas. I do want to note expenses on the building. They have gone up. What we've seen in 2022, that our utility costs have increased by about 28%. And non-budgeted repairs totaled $11,000 this year. Where, you know, just these were the unexpected elevator, HVAC, just a lot of unexpected repairs. One of our goals has been to start to build a repair and replacement fund. Thank you. But yeah, in there. So what we have recommended as our contribution to that is to fund at $10,000 repair and replacement line. The building is 5 years old. You know, it's still early for things to start to go, but you know, reflective of what we experienced in this year, we did think it was prudent to put an amount of $10,000 to cover costs.
Does everyone pay their own utilities, or do you pay the whole thing? Or
We
is it included in
It's
their
included,
rent?
yeah. So with that, we are projecting a conservative, again, net income of $83,618 for 619, I'm sorry, for 2023. Again, a slight decrease from last year, but just based on what we're seeing play out in this year, it's to us relatively flat for next year as well.
Stacey, I got one question.
Sure.
Public relations contracts, who's that with?
Hugh does, Peter and Camilla Hoff and Hugh, we've have a term contract with them. They provide a number of services for us, mostly the development of all of our print materials, our annual report, our marketing brochures, presentations as needed for our community breakfast and such. They create all the content for our digital ads, things like that.
They do all the digital stuff.
Yeah, Rieger as well. And Rieger, I'm sorry, Rieger does all our ad placement. So Hugh creates all the content, and Rieger, excuse me, does all of our media placement for us.
And you does the digital.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So finally, in here, you will see separated out the capital expenditure line. We do recommend that we retain the capital expenditure line at this point. It's just shy of 3 million to be allocated for development sites, including but not limited to the payment for the option for purchase of acreage at East Main and Airport Roads in the towns of Maine and Union, acquisition and appraisals for additional acreage along the area we are researching for potential development park construction, and then other costs related to the development of sites in Broome County, not including those that I just referenced. That money, the source of that funding, if you recall, comes from the sale proceeds of 265 Industrial Park Drive, the former Link building. We have thus far only utilized that for the purposes of doing the appraisal on the lands on the acreage at East Main and Airport Roads. Given the fact that the board has approved us to enter into the option agreement, we expect to start utilizing those funds, this year and next. So that number might shift down a little if we do any expenditures for the remainder of 2022. That would be things like phase 2 and engineering reviews, additional appraisals, and ultimately acquisition. I think we'll eat up that amount of money.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a few questions?
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks. Stacy and Teresa, would you mind inserting a column showing the current year projected, maybe through July, just so that there's a reference point? maybe you put that in before the 22 approved budget, just so that there's perspective.
Sure.
Okay,
We can do that, no problem.
specific questions. The Tarpon lease, although it's not a game changer, will that really start paying in 23 and for the whole year? Just a question.
Sure. You know, we have essentially all we're waiting on now. We've agreed to the terms of the lease agreement. They have to go through some steps with site plan approval with the town of Conklin. I know they've begun that process. You know, typically a site plan approval ideally would take no more than 3 months, which would put us to the end of the year. So theoretically, we could begin at the beginning of 2023 or sometime in Q1 of 2023. We're anticipating.
It implied when we were talking about this, that there was going to be a long lead time before they'd take possession of the property, so to speak. And maybe I misunderstood.
Do
As
you,
long as they get approvals from the town, they'll start building
Yeah.
ASAP. So
Okay,
yeah, they're ready to
They're
go.
ready, yeah, they're ready. They're just waiting on,
They're waiting on.
they needed
town.
this first before they could go to the town.
got it. Second question, Altura. Stacy, maybe you have more insight. Are you confident that that's going to actually happen?
You know, we've had conversations both with council for, you know, Joe and I have talked with council for Rocky, and we've talked with Rocky. Based on their expectations of their start date, they're telling us that additional year was all they were requiring to get the project underway. You know, a lot of these are, again, there are our best estimates based on the feedback we're getting and, you know, continued conversations on the project. You know, it's every understanding we have that he intends to move forward with the project at this point in time.
Didn't he cite like manpower and materials shortages for the reason for the extension,
Mhm.
right? And he's hopeful with it.
Yeah, but we have not been.
It was
Yeah,
his
we-
overall cost structure. I think he was just trying to buy time to let things settle down, if you will.
Yeah.
I have no insight. I'm just asking.
No, you know, again, I mean, other than the conversations, you know, on a lot of these projects, we follow up and we check in and we, you know, based on the information that's being provided to us, we felt confident enough to include it in our 2023 estimate. Any of these projects, you know, we had some thought we would be further along with Water Street development this year based on the sort of urgency in getting the project, the initial application to the board, you know, we need to move this quickly. And unfortunately, what we see is sometimes the hurry up and then these projects just start to hit delays but with knowing that, you know, and knowing, you know, we tried to select those that we felt were most realistic moving forward in the year ahead. So
That Water Street on the way into work today, see, they had a picture up on it.
yeah, so what they're doing with that project,
I'd
just,
seen that.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're, so what's happening there is, they're planning to do a surface lot for parking for this
Yeah.
year, to provide, parking for Boscov's through the holiday season. My understanding through actually just talking with the mayor yesterday, they will begin doing some of their hope is to begin construction in January of next year, which can be challenging with the winter months, but Q1 of next year, they're planning to begin some construction related to the vertical parking, which I think will be at least a good part of a year to get that constructed, and that the housing is to come following that. So we've reached out to Jeff Smetana with the United Group and we've said, hey, can you give us proof of life, you know, what's happening? They said, no, we are advancing the project, just no definitive, I mean, you know, we just, it's kind of trying to shoot fish in a barrel, you know, you just don't know when. Sometimes a project will disappear and then it'll ramp up and you're moving fast, or sometimes it'll go fast and then it disappears.
The drawing looked very nice on
Yeah.
the fence there.
Mhm.
They built it Like that.
Yeah. You know,
Is that a prefab parking
prefab
lot?
it will be.
Just so they go out quick. I mean,
Yeah.
That train was done.
Yeah.
Probably the last one they did.
So, right, if I'm hopeful we will at least have the project back in front of the board. Remember, we've only accepted the application on that. We've not approved any benefit yet. So I'm hopeful that will be back in front of the board in 2023. I don't expect it to come back to us this year, however.
Two other questions, if I may.
Sure. Mhm.
The benefits line is 45% of salaries. Has anybody done an analysis, if you take out FICA, you take out unemployment, et cetera, has anybody done an analysis? Because that's like 35%, if you will, of salaries going towards what, 401 or 403B and health benefits?
It includes it actually includes quite a bit. It includes, the 401k, it includes health, dental, vision, and it also includes our workman's comp is in there.
Okay,
There's a list of things, all of our, like the life insurance, and, all of that. Short-term disability, long-term
Everything.
disability.
John, that ratio is gonna be skewed a little bit because of the chamber arrangement, right? The agency covers all of the
Only my
benefits.
salary, no benefits.
No. the
No, I know,
chamber-
but so the agency is picking up
Oh, I'm
All the
sorry.
hundred
Yes,
percent,
the agency.
100% of the benefit on 50% of the salary reflected. So that ratio is gonna seem high.
good point. Thank you. Yep. And lastly, on the repair and replacement, the 10 grand, are we setting that money into a reserve account, or are we just budgeting for it in the event that we have breakdowns?
I would like to put it into a separate account, separate and distinct, strictly for repair and replacement as needed.
Probably wise, just going
That was-
forward so
yeah,
that you
that
have a
was
fund.
our, yeah, and that has been the longer term goal when when doing this building was to, we wanted to start that earlier than we had, but
Yeah.
for, that we had some issues with visions and we worked that out and, just the income. Yeah, we felt it was the time to start putting that in now.
Yeah, definitely.
I just comment, I like that idea as well. I would just document sort of an intended use of when you would pull from that fund.
Okay,
What sort of unusual expenditure would warrant pulling from the fund?
okay.
Probably a dollar threshold.
Right, so it's,
Yeah,
right,
Pretty
over a certain
standard.
dollar amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we will put that in a separate account.
And one other comment, I think I said it at the last board meeting, or maybe the board meeting before that. We've set aside the carve out of $3 million for the park. I get that. Are we really gonna spend all that money in 1 year? My reasoning is, or my rationale for asking the question is, shouldn't we put some of that into short-term treasuries to at least earn interest? Because I can't imagine us writing checks for $3 million over the next 6 to 9 months. Just a thought.
Yeah, we can have a conversation with Brad Eaton at NBT on the best uses of that. Assuming moving forward, assuming we close or if we move forward with the purchase of the acreage we're considering right now, just on the Della Penna, that would be about 1.2 million, give or take. We can get some estimates on engineering reviews that we plan to take on in this next phase of due diligence, or this beginning phase of due diligence. We can get an estimate. So I think we could probably reasonably say at least half of that could be set aside into some short-term investments.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else have any questions for Stacy? Thank you, Stacy.
Mhm.
So we would look for a recommendation to the full board for approval of the budget. Oh, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No need for executive session or
I didn't
anything.
have one, no.
No old business. Look for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second, Joe,
Second.
thank you. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned. You gotta stop and start or just
Nope.
roll right into it?
Right in. After
Perfect.
9:30, so.
Good morning, 9:36, August 31st. I'd like to call to order committee meeting for audit and finance. We've all had a chance to review the meeting minutes from the September 27th, 21st meeting. If there's no objection, we will submit those for the record. This time we will open the public comment portion of the meeting. If anyone has a wish to comment, please limit your comments to 5 minutes. State your name, address for the record. Seeing none, hearing none, we will close the public comment portion. New business. Review and recommendation of approval to the full board for the LDC operational budget for fiscal year 2023. Stacey.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. So similarly, this process is to advance a draft budget to the full LDC board in September, which will assist in meeting our required deadline of October 31st to the New York State Paris reporting system. The proposed budget for the BC LDC includes a continuation of income in the form of grants and annual project payments. The budget continues to take a conservative approach on revenue. Most of our expenditures support our efforts to support community organization and events and marketing partnerships with the Chamber of Commerce through the Leadership Alliance. So I will briefly run through this and happy to answer any questions. We are expecting, we just got our pre-approval for the last at least 6 years. We've received $75,000 in grant funding through NYSEG for their economic development outreach program, as it's called, which is used to provide support for any marketing efforts to increase essentially users in the NYSEG territory. So that's been a very successful program, and we just received word that we are pre-approved for next year's funding. So we've continued to maintain the $75,000 there. We've added just a conservative line of miscellaneous income. This is mostly through proceeds through our role in serving as a grant administrator / pass-through for our ARPA relationships on the ARPA funds. So we've put a conservative line in there this year that we did not previously have. The CDBG income and administration fee, excuse me, we did not include. This was a 1-year grant administration program. As a result, as our partnership with that, we were able to retain $50,000 in administration fees through that, which will be received in 2022. So we did not include that. Given the amount of administration with that program, we do not anticipate moving forward with any new applications on those funding at this point in time. Good Shepherd Fairview Home. This is a annual recurring payment on the fee related to a bond refinancing for Good Shepherd. I think it was actually Good Shepherd Village, I believe. And then the $25,000 and from Leadership Alliance, that is income we will receive that has been approved already from the Greater Binghamton Chamber as their contribution towards what will be a joint marketing effort for the Leadership Alliance. We're still in process of developing that messaging and content, but that is income that the Chamber Board has approved $25,000 for the next 3 years. So a total of $75,000, but $25,000 per year. So that's bringing our income down slightly to $135,600. Mostly the differential is that grant administration fee from the CDBG program. Administration fees really have not changed substantially. You will know what we have done is reduced Good Life advertising by the $25,000, but we have noted that as Leadership Alliance marketing for 2023. Again, it's a joint messaging program we are working to develop with the Chamber. As such, we will essentially roll the Good Life marketing into that, whatever that program becomes. Marketing, you'll see marketing separately as $30,000. That is what we currently support the Dick's Sporting Goods Open on an annual basis. We have retained that dollar amount for the time being. Community sponsorships is just our ability to support a number of nonprofits and other organizations and sponsorship of events. Teresa, we have one extra U in there, just so you know.
Yes, we do.
And then again, we are seeing a slight increase in our audit for next year per Ansero's guidance. And because we have received the federal dollars through the American Rescue Plan Act, we will be required to do a single audit, and those numbers, that dollar amount also is provided by Ansero. So when all is said and done, we expect to realize an income of approximately $38,000 for next year. Not a significant change, but
Thank you, Stacy. Any questions?
Just a quick question. On the Leadership Alliance marketing and Good Life, so we've sort of gone from a budget of 50 down to 25, but we've added the 25 from the chamber. Is that 25 enough for the total marketing?
we have also in our IDA budget and through advertising, we would provide an additional $25,000 through the IDA fund. So it's a total of $75,000.
So the expense from the chamber comes into LDC.
Yeah,
But it's sort of a total organization spend.
yeah.
Shell game, Peter.
I get it.
Because we can't, the IDA cannot provide any funding to the LDC. We can pay for advertising out of the IDA separately, but we can't grant it to another entity.
Then our audit, is that a one-time or will that be recurring?
I believe it's a one
I
time.
think it's
Is it
reoccurring.
reoccurring?
I believe
Okay.
it's reoccurring as long as you distribute ARPA funds, so it'll be at least a couple of years.
Till it's all done.
Yeah, it depends on unless we get rid of it.
Unless we can
sooner.
get rid of it
Yeah,
sooner.
right,
which we would
right.
like
So
to.
as long as you got it, you got
As long as
it.
we, you're right,
Yeah.
if we write a check in 24, we have to do the audit.
Yeah. So we'll see where we are. Yeah, by this time next year, hopefully we'll have gotten it all out the door.
It's the goal.
Yes.
And that expense cannot be passed through, correct?
Not at this point.
Not at this point. We have just so on the ARPA funds, I had noted to the board, I did make a request specifically with regard to the IBM Country Club. We received $2 million in ARPA funding for that project. The total all-in contract with LaChase on that was just slightly below that 1.974. I did make a request to the county to retain the remainder of that funding for administration fees. It's my understanding through both the county executive and the chairman that they support that. So that similarly, yeah, I think we would entertain a conversation with all parties on potentially covering some cost. It was not built in, and should have been, but it was not built into the original agreement. So we are doing some of this after the fact, and that's on me, but
Actually, in your defense, Stacy, this was, as you know, this came crashing to us, and the fact
Yeah.
that it's all lined up after all this time is amazing.
it is. It's been quite a process, but there are substantial legal fees coming through, as well as, audit fees. So we do appreciate the county's willingness to provide that income back to us per the agreement with the county. Any excess income from the grant was to return back to the county. So we made that request, and I think it ultimately will be supportive, at least based on my initial conversation. So that'll help cover some of our costs on these items.
Yes, it should.
Yeah.
Anything else? For a motion to send the approval to the full board? Joe, second, all in favor? Right. Motion carried. No need for executive session, no old business.
I do
Look
not.
for a motion to adjourn.
Almost.
Second. We are adjourned.
All right.
Well,